Hello, viewers, whoever you may be. This is a movie about the compound. I'm making this as an instructional movie to help anyone in the future who might need to find the location of things on the property or how to repair things on the property and so forth. Now, I intend to break the movie up into several parts, and I'll try to put a description in the timeline of each part so you wouldn't have to look through the entire movie to find what you're looking for. This is a picture of the front of the property, and as you can see, it's at the corner of the lot on Burden. The lot number for this property is track number 9077, lot 15, and I have included a picture of the track map so that you can see where the lot is located within this part of the city. If you needed more information, you could always look at this track map at the City Hall, but I think you'll get most everything you need from this small little map that I'm showing you. You can see that our address at 27541 is lot 15. It's at the corner of the cul-de-sac, and you can see how the cul-de-sac is laid out. Now, in this first part of the movie, I'm going to show you some features near the street of the property. As you can see right here in the center of this frame, there's a marker on the curb that shows the property marker. And on the far side, you can see also there's a marker. It's a small nail embedded into the concrete. So that determines the property markers. Here I'm showing at the end of the driveway there's a drain on the left side, and this drain brings rainwater from the back of the property all the way down to the street. And the same thing here on the right side. You can just see it there buried in the gravel. So sometimes those need to be cleared out. They bring water from the back of the property down to the front and out to the street. Now next I'd show you the location of the water meter at the front of the property. If you ever had to shut the water off to the house, you would go here, and there's a large tool on the side of the house by the trash cans that'll turn the key off that shuts the water off to the house. You'll need that tool in order to do this. Next, we're going to take a walk up towards the gates, and these gates are motorized gates. They've worked perfectly fine over the years, although recently I have had a little difficulty with the one on the left. This is a gate on the right, and you'll be able to see there's a small keyhole right about there if you ever needed to disengage the gate to open it and close it manually. And here's a keypad that allows you to access the opening and closing of the gates. You all know the code to the keypad. And the key that operates the release on each gate is on a little nail just below the keypad hanging there. Now on the left side, this gate motor has some difficulty, and you can't use the little key to disengage the gate. So what I've always done is just taken this pin out here if I need to open or close the gate manually. And you can see by disengaging the motor arm, you can easily free that gate up if you need to close it or open it for any reason. Now behind the wall is the push button that allows you to open the gate or close the gate by manually pushing that button. Most of you have used that before in the past. Now beside each corner there by the pilasters, there is an outlet, and I had those installed just for plugging things in that you might need to plug in at the end of the driveway here. And there's one on each side. Now the last feature of this section of the movie is I'll point out that I converted the lights at the top of the pilasters from electrical to solar, and this is just a little solar panel that turns those lights on and off. It works pretty good. Just need to keep the solar panels clean, and at some point probably you'll have to replace the battery in those solar lights, but for now it works just fine. Okay, now we're going to move inside the gate, and as you can see, we're looking at the street from this angle. And on the left there's really nothing here. There's a few sprinkler heads and a couple of drains, but nothing really to worry about on that left side. If we move over towards the right side of the parking space here, you'll see there's another grassy area that contains sprinkler heads, and there's a drain there on your left. This is one of the main drains. Now, as we move back towards the garage doors, I want to point out that there is a small little pipe sticking out from the middle of the garage with a wire inside it. That was an old line that operated the sprinkler valves in the early days. It's not connected anymore, so you can just ignore that. It really has no function at this point. And then up at the top of the garage doors, I'll point out that I have installed some security lights. There are 3 lights that come on via a timer which is located in the garage on the left side. Now, as we move over towards the pump house, there's a small planter there with, those are heavenly bamboo. And inside that planter, I'll point out there is a sprinkler head and there is a drain. And right next to the door, you'll see a white circle right there. That's an old drain that has been abandoned. It's just covered. Now, inside the pump house, there's lots of things to know about. This is the heater, and you won't really have to do a lot to that. Sometimes you have to operate it manually, and you can see the toggle switches there, but generally you operate it off the keypad. The keypad is located in the family room inside the house. If anything really wrong ever goes with the heater, I would suggest not worrying about it, just calling Daryl, the pool guy. He's pretty familiar with how it all works. Now this is the main valve that operates with the pool, and the only really thing I've ever needed to do here is turn that valve if I had to drain water from the pool, say after a real heavy rain, too much water is in the pool. So in that case, what you would do is turn that dial to the space where it says waste out, and that would drain water from the pool out to the sewer. So in this next scene, you'll see the pool filter, and again, there's not a lot to do with this. It's usually taken care of by the pool service. About once a quarter, have the filter cleaned. But I will point out that at the top of the filter, there's a small button that you can turn to relieve any air that accumulates in the pool filter. Next, you're going to see some of the other components inside the pump house. The white mechanism there is for the salt system. It's actually the cell that creates chlorine from the salt, and that needs to be cleaned every quarter or so. I'll leave some directions specific to that later on. And then you see the back, the piece in the back there that was behind the cell. That was the air blower for the spa. Here is the main water intake from the pool, and you can see from there it goes to a series of valves, and those valves control different features of the pool, but they don't need to be touched at all. That is pretty well set and controlled by the controller inside the house. Then as you go forward, you can see some of the wiring that leads up to the electronics of the pool service. This gray box controls just really has nothing to do with the pool. It used to, but it doesn't anymore. It has to do with the lights out by the pilasters, and there's a nice little lizard. This big box is the controller for the salt system, and I'll open that so you could see it. There's really nothing to do here. Just check it every now and then. It'll be flashing if it's time to add salt or if it's time to clean the chlorine generator. And you don't have to change any of those dials or anything. Just check it every now and then, see if there's any lights flashing. Now next we'll move to the controllers for the pool. As you can see, there are a series of push buttons, but really there's not a lot to do here either because it's all controlled by the wireless box inside the house. But if you ever needed to turn anything on manually to switch the pool from pool to spa or whatever, you can see that you'd just be pushing these buttons to turn on the boosters, to change the setting from auto to the service setting, and that allows you to operate things manually. Here are the breaker switches for the pool equipment. There's a switch that turns the pool system off. There's also a switch that turns off the power to the lights on top of the pilasters, but again, those aren't really used. This is the control box for the sprinklers, and this gray box here, a brown box, is really non-functional. It's the old control box, but it's all it does now is supply power to the new controller box. The green box, the actual controller box from the sprinklers, controls 5 valves, and it operates pretty simply just by turning that wheel and pushing manual or forward or backward, as you can see. Anything there, pretty much like all other control boxes for sprinklers. There are 5 valves, as I said, and those are here. They control everything from the front strip along the driveway all the way up to around to the back of the house by the coral tree. There's a button on each one that you can turn to turn on each valve by hand if you need to. Now the last thing I'll point out, there's a climbing rose here that grew in the pump house. Just need to water that every now and then to keep it going. It's pretty nice. It flowers a couple times a year. And just keep it watered every couple of weeks and it'll be just fine for you throughout the year. Now in this next part, you can see that we've moved into the pool area. You can see the gates there with the lights that are controlled by the box inside the family room. Inside this planter box, there are a few sprinkler heads and drains, nothing too much to worry about. As you move over into this corner, though, you'll be able to see a couple of things. You can see there along the wall, there's a conduit. And I put that in when I brought an outlet to the far corner of this section of the property near the palm tree. That's the junction box there. And you will see right there, I think you can pick it up, there's a drain. It's a very important drain because if the pool ever overflowed, that's where the water would flow out of. Be careful not to do any digging in that area because that's where all of the pipes for the pool are. There you can see the antenna that controls the control box inside the family room. And again, this little rose garden contains just a couple of drains and some sprinkler heads. Up towards the circle, I'll just point out that there are some lights there that are controlled by a controller in the pump house. And over by the palm tree, there is an outlet which I installed some years ago, and that can be used if you're sitting there and you want to plug in your phone or a stereo or anything like that. You'll be able to see a outlet that's actually attached to the palm tree. From there, you see a conduit that goes around the circle. You can pick it up right here, that gray pipe, and that's the line I installed to control the pole light, which is just adjacent to the jacuzzi. Now here's a drain in the circle. Make sure that is always kept clear. Here's a skimmer for the pool. The only thing you need to do there is to make sure that you clean the basket every now and then. It collects quite a few leaves, especially in the summertime, and that needs to be kept cleared as much as possible. Over in the corner by the water faucet, you can see that there is a water faucet attached to that hose reel, and there are a series of 3 valves here. Now they all have blue handles, but the small valve in the front with the blue handle allows you to add water to the pool if the pool level ever got too low. The valve in the middle is the main shutoff valve to bring water into the house, the one that's pointing towards the gates, that is. Third valve, the one at the top of the frame, is the handle or the valve that allows you to shut water off to the irrigation system, in case you ever needed to do a sprinkler repair. Now we're moving to the south side of the property. You can see the park there in the background and the jacuzzi. Nothing too much here, just some lights and sprinklers and a couple of drains. I will point out that right next to that pole light, there are a couple of things that you need to know about. There are 2 controllers in there. Actually, there's a outlet and a controller. The outlet is where the pole light is plugged into, and the little controller that you see on the right of that is a timer for that pole light. You can have it come on or go off any time of the day that you want. So right now it comes on about dark. And then moving down the fence line, just some lights and sprinklers in this area. Moving to the back of the property, the back corner of the property, you can see some lights that are on a timer. I'll show you that timer just in a couple of minutes, but nothing else in there other than some sprinkler heads to be aware of. Over by the fire pit, the controller for the gas is right behind that hedge that you just saw. And moving down the line, you'll see on the porch, there's nothing there to worry about. Right behind that brown pot there is a switch that controls, you can barely see it there, the lights for the pool and the jacuzzi. There's an outlet on the side of the wall there, which is useful sometimes for plugging things in. And under the bay window, you'll see the two junction boxes for the pool lights and the spa lights. Moving back to the back of the house, you see the water faucet and sprinklers in the planter box and that light there. Over on this wall, you'll see the main sewer clean out for this side of the house and the light controller for the lights that run along the side of the house, the back side of the house, I should say. Those can be controlled with that box. Moving down towards the far end of the property, you can see just some planter boxes and lights and sprinklers that are in there in that lawn area. Then toward the back corner of the property, you'll see the peach tree and some decorative lighting. Again, that's all controlled by the light control box. And then one thing I wanted to point out, over in this section of the yard, there's a main yard drain that leads from the lawn all the way down to the street that I pointed out in the first part of the movie. And here's another yard drain that follows that same piping system that drinks water from the back of the property down to the street. Next, we're going to move to the barbecue area. And you'll see there's a barbecue I built several years ago. And inside this little door, by the way, that's the door clasp that I bought in Italy. Now, the last thing I want to point out for this part of the movie are these three boxes are located next to the barbecue. The one on the far left is a light controller for all the lights in the back of the property. The one in the middle is the on-off switch for the party lights above the patio. And then one on the far right is just an outlet if you needed to plug anything in to that area. Now we move to the north side of the property. There's some really important features here that you need to be aware of. Here's the water turnoff for the back water hose. Here you see the irrigation valves for the backyard and the side yard in the front. The valve on the front of the picture is the valve that controls the strip along the driveway, and the one in the back is the one that controls the sprinklers in the backyard. Now you're going to see the air conditioner and some features around the air conditioner. This is a compressor here. It's installed in 2020. It's fairly new, 2021 actually. This is the main fuse for the air conditioning compressor. Shouldn't ever have to do anything with that. This little box here is the lint screen from the dryer vent that needs to be cleaned out. Every now and then it'll pick up lint from the dryer. And down here you see two pipes. The one in the front that leads into the house is a line that I pulled from the cable TV set system directly to the TV in the family room. The one in the back carries the irrigation power line. Now down here behind these ladders you see a little red switch, and that's the controller, the on-off switch for the gas to the fire pit. As we move down along the side of the house, you'll see a white conduit that carries that line that I talked about for the cable TV. And here you'll see a switch for the lights just above, which you're going to see here. Now these are motion sensors, so you don't need to ever turn that off. And there's also next to that an outlet. Here again is the conduit for the cable TV line that I pulled. And we go now down to the controller for the solar system. Again, nothing you ever need to do here. It's all taken care of. If there was ever a problem, you'd have to call someone to work on that, an expert to work on that. But in the middle of that, you see a little brown area with a screen. You can't see it in this picture, but if you tap on that brown area, you'll see how much energy you've made on that particular day or for the year. This is the on-off for the solar system. This is the main power for the solar system. Again, never have to touch any of those. That'd be done by a solar expert. Here's the gas meter. It's a smart meter installed recently. And you can see over on the right there, there's the gas shut off if there was ever a problem inside the house. And then to the left of that is the wrench that'll turn that valve on or off. Moving on down, you'll see the main panel for the house. Before I get to that though, these two boxes, the one on top is all the connections for cable TV, and the one on the bottom is for telephone, which we don't use anymore. Here's a smart electric meter installed just a few years ago. There's a main power on and off if you ever have to shut power to the entire house. And I'll open the breaker switch box, and you'll see that all the switches are labeled. That's what they control. Sometimes you have to turn one or more of those off if you're going to work on something inside the house. This is just a picture of the gutter system, how it joins the main drain and underground, and it comes from the gutters in the front and goes underground out to the street. Now over on this side of the walkway there, I point this out because you can see that white pipe. That's part of the irrigation line. And in some areas in this particular section, the irrigation lines are quite shallow, so you have to be aware of that. I've been digging a few times and actually hit some of those lines. This is that tool that I mentioned in the first part of the video to turn the water main out front on and off. And I want to show you something here. These trees that I have on this side of the property are quite aggressive in their root system, and they've been known to break the concrete actually, so keep an eye on that. Here's just an example of some of the drains in that area. They all go up to the main drain in the front of the yard. Now this is something I want to point out back towards the sprinkler valves again. It's an extra drainage line that was installed that's no longer used anymore, but in case you're ever curious what that is, it's just an underground drain line. So that's the end of this video associated with all the exterior features of the property. Should be helpful if you ever need to make any repairs or find anything out about the property. I'll intend to post this on YouTube on the family channel, and then in the near future I'll be making a similar video about all the features on the inside of the house that you might need to be aware of. Thanks for watching.